You know that feeling when you're brainstorming with an AI and you just keep getting the same bland, predictable answers over and over again? It's a super common frustration. You're trying to find some creative spark, but it feels like the AI is just stuck in a major rut. Well, what if I told you there's a really simple trick to break it out of that rut? Let's get into it.
Seriously, does this feel familiar? You ask for a creative story, a new idea, maybe even just a joke, and what you get back feels, well, a little too familiar. Almost like you've heard that one before. I mean, just look at this. Researchers asked an AI for a coffee joke 5 different times. And 5 times, it came back with the exact same punchline. Hey, it's an okay joke, I'll give it that. But the total lack of variety, that's the real problem. And this just perfectly illustrates the issue we're talking about today.
So, there's actually a name for this phenomenon. It's called mode collapse. And it's basically when the AI, instead of exploring this huge universe of possible answers, just collapses down into one single, safe, and kind of stereotypical response, the mode. And that's what crushes its creativity, turning this amazing tool into a pretty repetitive machine.
So first up, we're going to dive into this AI echo chamber. What is actually causing this creative bottleneck?
And then we're going to uncover a pretty surprising twist. Turns out the root of this AI problem might not be the AI at all. It might actually be us.
I think it's just a bug in the code, right? Some flaw in the training algorithm or the reward system that just happens to prefer one kind of answer. And yeah, that's what a lot of people thought. But the real story, it's way more interesting.
Because here's the twist. The real problem isn't buried in some complex code. Nope. It's actually a reflection of our own human psychology, which gets baked right into the AI while it's being trained. And it all comes down to something called typicality bias. It's a fundamental part of how our brains are wired. We just naturally prefer things that are familiar, predictable, and easy to process. So during the AI alignment process, when humans are rating AI responses, we subconsciously end up rewarding the typical answers. We like the conventional story, the obvious joke. And all that preference data basically teaches the AI to be less creative.
Okay, so look at how this works. You start with a base AI model that's just full of wild, diverse, kind of weird ideas. But then it gets trained on all that human feedback, and our typicality bias acts like this giant filter, just weeding out all the unconventional stuff. And what's the result? An aligned AI that's collapsed into a single predictable mode. But what if you could just bypass that filter? Well, that brings us to a surprisingly simple and frankly elegant solution that doesn't need any new training. It's all about how you ask the question.
So on the left, you've got the old way, just a direct command. But on the right, there's this new technique called verbalized sampling. Instead of just asking for one story, you ask for a whole distribution of stories, and you even ask for their probabilities. This tiny shift in how we ask, it makes all the difference.
And here it is, the prompt you can literally copy and paste yourself. By asking the AI to verbalize its range of possible answers, you're pretty much telling it to think more like its original, super diverse self instead of its narrow, fine-tuned self.
So the big question, does this simple little prompt change actually work? Well, let's look at the results, because they are pretty dramatic.
This one is my absolute favorite example. When you ask directly for a bear story, you get, well, a story about a bear in the woods. Pretty predictable, right? But with verbalized sampling, you get Bernard, the bear who works as a tax accountant in Seattle. The creative leap here is it's massive. And the hard data totally backs this up. For creative writing tasks, this simple technique boosts the diversity of the AI's output by 1.6 to 2.1 times. Think about that. You're getting more than double the variety just from changing a few words in your prompt. And it's not just for creative writing either. In a simulation where an AI had to decide how much money to donate, direct prompting led to these really high, unrealistic amounts. But verbalized sampling, it produced a range of amounts that was way closer to how actual humans behave. So it doesn't just make the AI more creative, it makes it more realistic too.
You can even see the effect when you're generating images. Direct prompts for, say, an astronaut on a horse pretty much just give you photorealistic shots in a desert. But verbalized sampling? Oh, it gives you a whimsical storybook watercolor, a cool retro-futurist photo, even a heroic astronaut in a Baroque painting. It just unlocks all this variety in style and setting.
Okay, but this isn't just some neat party trick. It actually has some profound implications for how we interact with and build these AI systems. It kind of suggests we've only scratched the surface of what they can do. So let's wrap up with the key takeaways.
First, that frustrating repetitiveness we all feel. It isn't just a machine flaw, it's a mirror of our own human biases. Second, and this is the really cool part, we can get around this bias with just a simple change to our prompt. No expensive retraining needed. Third, verbalized sampling boosts both creativity and realism, which makes AI a better tool for everything from art to simulations. And finally, and this is what's really fascinating, the bigger and more capable the AI model is, the more it actually benefits from this technique. So it's a method that scales with progress, unlocking even more potential as the tech gets better.
So that leaves us with this really interesting final thought. If just a small shift in how we phrase a question can overcome a fundamental limitation and unlock so much hidden potential, it really makes you wonder, right? What other breakthroughs are just sitting there, waiting for us? Not in building bigger models, but just in learning how to talk to them better.